And we also have a raffle for the ¿cómo se llaman? Earbud raffle. All they have to do is sign up, and they'll be entered into the raffle. So raffle hoodies, shirts, support the work. Don't fall.
Ciao.
Alright. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you everyone so much for being here for the last panel. We're very excited for it to get started, and we also thank you all for your patience. Before I introduce the first speaker, I would like to remind all of you that we do have a physical booth at the bazaar. It is P13. So if you walk into the bazaar and you just turn right and go all the way to the corner, you'll find us. Please visit our booth, especially if you don't know a lot about Ojalá. You'll have more information about us there. We have some cool gear. We also have a raffle for headphones that all you gotta do is go and enter that. So please go ahead and take advantage of the fact that we're physically here today and tomorrow to learn more, and then also see how you're able to support the work in any sort of way, whether it's through your time, your treasure, or your talents. So we're gonna go ahead and get started now. I'm gonna first introduce the first speaker, and then I'll come back up here to introduce the second speaker. So the title of this panel is Imposter Syndrome. So we're gonna hear from our panelists on some of the tips and tricks of being a new Muslim and some of the ways to navigate that. So I'm going to start by introducing Alma Campos. She's the sister to my left. She's a Mexican-American Muslim who embraced Islam over 20 years ago. Since her conversion, she has been dedicated to advocating for the Muslim community with a special focus on empowering Latino converts. She is also a co-founder of Ojalá Foundation, Latino Muslims of Chicago, and she loves sharing her Islamic journey, as her parents have also embraced the faith, and I'm sure she might touch on that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and step back, let her take over, and then I'll come back up to introduce the next one, inshallah.
Assalamu alaykum, everybody. So right now we're going to talk about this concept of imposter syndrome, which I think we're all familiar with. Does everybody know what this means? Like the idea of being an imposter sometimes? Raise your hand. Más o menos? Okay, so kind of. All right. So I think imposter syndrome is something that is going to pop up in our lives at different times because that is just the way that life goes. So basically, it is just feeling that you're not good enough sometimes, or that you're not fully what you're trying to be or what you're trying to represent. So it might be when you start a new job and you hand in your beautiful, shiny little resume, and then you realize, man, everybody has it together and I can't punch in by 9 o'clock. You know, and you're thinking like somebody's gonna find out I'm not as good as I am, and then let's see what's gonna happen. So it's this idea, but today we're gonna talk about it in the context of being a Muslim. And me being a convert to Islam, we're going to talk about it from that perspective, inshallah. So one thing to understand for those of us that have accepted Islam, can you raise your hand if you are converts to this faith? Okay, so mashallah, we're like split 50-50. And I think it's relevant to both of us, but especially for those that have gone through the journey of embracing this faith. See, when we're making that decision of discovering and trying to figure out what Islam is, in many ways we're uprooting a lot of who we are and what we have known about life. So we're trying to understand what it is that I'm doing now and who I am now as a Muslim, because my whole life journey up to that point was something different, right? So we're starting to question everything that we have been taught, what we know, the faith that we have learned, but also our life experiences, subhanAllah. And so I'm learning about this and just like thinking about it. I started to ask myself, like, I would never allow anybody to question me for being Latina. You know, if anybody came and said, you're not Mexican or you're not Latina, it wouldn't even faze me, like I wouldn't even entertain it, because I'm so confident in who I am as a Latina, my mom, my dad, my aunts, my uncles, everybody. I'm not going to question my Latino-ness, right? This is who I am, it's me. But when it comes to Islam, I don't know if anybody has experienced this, But sometimes people that have known you all your life might come and say, why are you trying to be Arab? Right? Why are you trying to be something that you're not? Like, I know you, I remember you, I've known you since you were a kid, and now who are you trying to be? See, this is one part of it, and that is difficult to navigate, but sometimes when we hear these things, we start to question ourselves. And then we start to wonder, like, what am I doing really? Like, am I really having the correct intention in the way that I'm doing things? Am I really doing things for the sake of Allah? Or who am I doing it for? And it's an uncomfortable position to be in when you start to have these questions, because as we try to become better Muslims, sometimes things are going to feel a little bit different, right? I could say, like, when I started wearing hijab. Like, when I started wearing hijab, mashallah, you know, I don't have sisters, so I'm not used to this concept of sharing is caring. I just didn't share, because I didn't have anybody to share with. But then I come and I understand I have to wear hijab, so I'm wearing this hijab, and I don't feel like I'm wearing my sister's clothes or somebody else's clothes. I feel like I'm wearing somebody else's grandmother's clothing. And that was very difficult for me because I was a college student and hijab was not as nice as it is now. Like, alhamdulillah, we've come a long way, mashallah. But at that time, I felt like it was somebody else's clothing and I was just putting it on me as I was trying to understand. So that was one experience that I had. But there are times when these questions might be a little bit deeper than that, right? Because nobody knows you the way that you know you. And the questions, the doubts, the things that you experience on a day-to-day may sometimes make you question again, like, why am I doing this? Am I really good enough to call myself a Muslim? Am I good enough to be part of this ummah? You know, I might be going and praying, but I know who I am, or people are questioning me, or I'm having this doubt. And then you start to have this feeling of feeling like an imposter. Or maybe sometimes even feeling a little hypocritical. And I'm going to say, subhanAllah, this is something that is going to happen to all of us. I don't care if you're born into Islam or if you're new to Islam. And we should not entertain that in a negative way, because shaitan will try to take advantage of those thoughts. So shaitan is going to try to tell you, yeah, you know what you did last year. You know, I know what you did. Do you really think that you are good enough? And the thing that we need to remember is that there's too much at stake. There's too much of a risk to entertain this in a negative way. We can't. See, for those of us that are new to Islam and we realize we're the first one in that family, like, it's just me. If Islam leaves me, what a loss is there going to be? It's not just me. It's my lineage. It's those people around me that know nothing about Islam, but I am the representation of Islam to them, right? So we can't afford to give in to that thought of negativity and doubt. Instead, we should recognize that those questions are a sign of a heart that is wanting to do the right thing. A heart that is alive and is looking to do what is correct and have an intention that is correct only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you do something and you question yourself, direct it that way. And reinstate that intention to yourself. This is for Allah. This is what I'm doing it for. And if you're still questioning, fake it till you make it, guys. We're going to fake it until it becomes who we are. And inshallah, we plan, we hope that we will all make it in the end. So I wanted to give another few examples of times when I felt like a total imposter as a Muslim. And hijab was definitely one of those, because I remember years when I would be wearing hijab and I would just feel like, this isn't really me yet. But I'll say that as time went on and I was wearing this veil and understanding why I was wearing it, alhamdulillah, I became more and more comfortable with it, until eventually I was like, I'm not an imposter anymore, right? Like, this is who I am, this is me. I don't see myself without it. I love it, and it's the best decision that I have made. But I'll give you another example, and I don't know if you guys have ever had this, but for us that are converts, sometimes when we start going to a masjid or we start trying to congregate or going for Eid Salah, going for Jummah, And you see all of the Muslim families coming together and giving each other hugs, and you're just by yourself. And you kind of feel like, the odd one there, it's like, where are you gonna go? We're gonna go eat. I'm gonna go back to work, or I'm gonna go do some laundry, or, you just feel a little bit different. And sometimes we start to think that this is just how life is gonna be, that I'm never gonna have that feeling that those people have, mashallah. They go there and they own that. They own that space. They own that experience. But I'll tell you, with time, inshallah, we will all get there. I remember when I first came into Islam, and I would wonder, I'm always going to have iftar by myself. I would sit there and break my fast, and it was just me. And I didn't want to go to the masjid because even if there was an iftar at the masjid, everybody kind of knew each other. And then for me, it was just me. And then last Ramadan, actually, I was contemplating on that as I saw my kids and my husband and my parents. And I was like, I never thought I would have this. And I never thought that would be me. And now I have it. And I know in a couple of years, inshallah, I'm going to have those reunions when I go to the masjid, right? And this is why things like Eid and Eid Salah are important for us as converts at Ojalá Foundation to have, to create a space for everybody to feel welcome no matter where you are on this journey. So again, to close it, I just want to remind everybody that when we have these questions, subhanAllah, sometimes it's really difficult to navigate them, and my experience has been that this doubt, this question of, am I being sincere? Do I have the correct intention? I feel sometimes a little bit hypocritical as I'm navigating this experience. And it was difficult for me to kind of come to terms to a place where I now embrace this. Like I said earlier, this is a sign that your heart is alive, that you're questioning and you're trying to do things with the right intention. Because for us, especially those that have embraced Islam, sometimes the little things that might seem very small to others, they're huge for us, right? It might be a huge moment and a huge thing for us to implement. And we want to make sure that we have the correct intention as we're doing that. So I'll leave you with a story that I heard of Omar radiallahu anhu. And it is when the names of the hypocrites were revealed. And I remember hearing the story a couple of times, but it wasn't until recently that I heard it and I was like, whoa, that really hit me. Because I related to it so deeply. And it's basically when he heard the names of the hypocrites, that they were revealed, he rushed to that Sahabi and he asked him, am I amongst those people? Is my name there? And we're talking about Omar, the man that was promised Jannah, this closest Sahabi of our Prophet. And he's asking, am I on that list? In that moment, I felt his heart pounding, and I felt that rush, and I felt the fear. Because I know, for us, sometimes we're doing this and we're just not fully feeling like it belongs to us, so we're trying to hold on to it so tight, right? We want it to be ours, but we're still in that process of making it ours. But this was Omar. So if you ever have that feeling, just know that subhanAllah, if he had it, who are we, right? It's a sign of a good heart. Inshallah, may Allah make it easy for everybody. And if we have to fake it till we make it, let's make it to Jannah. Assalamu alaykum.
Jazakumullah khair. So next, I'm going to be introducing Imam Kareem. He was born and raised in Chicago, then moved to the western suburbs and accepted Islam at the age of 15. He has been involved with convert care, mentoring, feeding the needy, and dawah efforts throughout all of the Chicagoland area for the last 20 years. He has worked closely with Mosque Foundation of Bridgeview, the Muslim Community Center of Chicago, MCC, Chicago Islamic Center, Nahda, ICCI, Darul Hadith, and has also gone on trips to spread dawah to Mexico City, Mexico, Guadalajara, León, and Panama City, Panama. And he is also one of the co-founders of Ojalá Foundation, Latino Muslims of Chicago, and he is the current president of the board. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and introduce him and hear some of his thoughts.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. We continue in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to purify all of our intentions, to bring us together for His sake and for His sake alone. Brothers and sisters, just to get an idea, how many of you, again, are converts to Islam, reverts to Islam? How many are here looking into Islam? And then how many born? Okay, great. Okay. So, subhanAllah, the testimony of faith, bearing witness that there is none worthy of worship but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To believe this, to testify to this, to believe that there is none worthy of being followed but Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Once this has taken root in your heart and you've said this, the imposter is over. Now you're a Muslim. You're one of us, inshallah. It may take time to reach different levels, but at that point, don't ever for 1 second question your Islam. Now, as our sister Alma relayed the story of Umar, yes, don't think you're guaranteed Jannah. That's different. That's a big difference. But don't question your Islam. Don't let somebody come to you and try to tell you, like, you used to be like this, I see you do that. Now, all that is just noise. You tune that out. When we have people in our community embracing Islam, I give some general advice. And that general advice is that the first thing I want you to do is for about 6 months, I want you to focus on your connection with Allah, make the Quran your companion. Set some time every day. You're going to start reading a couple pages. Build on that. Do what you can. As soon as you have this, immediately we're going to start implementing our salah. You're going to start working on getting your prayer down. You're going to start working on getting your prayer regular, punctual, trying to do it as good as possible. Everything else can wait. Everything else can wait, right? Because you need to take ownership of your Islam. You need to know, I am a Muslim. I know Allah is the only one worthy of worship. I know Muhammad is the only one to follow. I'm praying. Everything else is a gradual thing. When we read about the lives of the companions, we read about the lives of the Prophet ﷺ, it didn't happen overnight. The changes didn't happen overnight. Once Iman took place, right? Once they had the faith, after 13 years of calling the people to Tawheed, then rules could be heard and obeyed easily because the faith was already rooted. For a lot of us that embrace Islam or looking into Islam, we think we got to do everything the first day. No, mashallah, the sister was in the club last week. This week she's going to testify and she's going to put on the niqab and everything, this and that. You know?
Why does it have to be the sister? Who would say the... I'm just saying.
I want to. Okay. The brother is the one that took it. Mo took it to the club. So the point though that's so important is I want you all to really focus on that. It's the ownership of Islam by us. Why? Because if we don't take ownership of our own Islam, if we don't take ownership of our own faith, then what are we going to do when something happens? We say, oh, I'm not really Muslim anymore. That means with you saying that, that's you saying, I may have not believed in the first place. Because you have to draw a very, very clear line. I believe I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect. All of us are going to make mistakes. This is where Shaitan comes at you, and this is where the people around you will come at you. When you start slipping, which is natural, we're all going to make mistakes. When you start doing that and people start throwing stuff in your face, you start having self-doubt, then you're in real big trouble. So never, ever, ever let the faith come to the point where you're like, I'm not really, because that's really an excuse. That's you saying, may Allah protect us, that's you saying, I want to sin and not call it a sin anymore. I want to backslide and do all those things I used to do because that's comfortable. That's my coping mechanism. When times get tough, I know I can do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to be numb, and I'm going to forget about everything. So then you're like, I was trying to be Muslim. No. Be a Muslim, be a sinning Muslim. But don't give up on your faith. Own the faith. This is the biggest aspect. Wallahi, in 30 years of being a Muslim, and 20-something years of whatever, convert care, that's what they call it now, of surviving, right, of this. These are the biggest causes that I see for people to slip out, is that you don't take ownership of your Islam, and you don't think you're good enough to be a Muslim anymore. So little things that you started building up start falling off. You start changing the way you act, you start changing where you go, you start changing the people you hang around with. All of a sudden, we don't see you at the masjid at all. We see you with your old friends. And subhanAllah, the further we go from Allah, it's like what is it, slippery slope, right? It starts with one thing, it goes to another, it goes to another. Next thing we know, Allahu Akbar, the person says, I used to be a Muslim. And this is not just like, it's not just like words. It's not just like I saw some self-help video talking about how to get it right. We have had people in our community we love, people that we love, people that we all saw the Shahada, we all jumped up and we all, Allahu Akbar, we hugged them, we kissed them, this and that. And then some time passed, we don't see them no more. We still reach out, we still try, we still invite. But for those of us that are in that position, you're the convert, you're the one, it's got to be a two-way street too. And that starts with the ownership. Knowing that this is your religion. Even if somebody treats you bad, there's what, 5 billion of them? I don't know, there's a lot of Muslims, man. You can find another masjid, you can find another person. You can start hanging around with other people, bro. Sister, what you got? What you saying? So anyways, it's of life or death importance. It's life or death. Because what happens to, and not all of us that come to Islam are coming through some trauma. You know, that's some of our specialty, but other people, it's not. They were like, mashallah, doing good in school, and they found Islam, and everything was like nice and proper. Some people that had issues, or some people that don't even recognize that you had issues, when the difficult times come, we more often than not will regress to what we know. So if you're not learning about Islam and you're not building upon your Islam, you're setting yourself up for failure. That's why this ownership is so important. You have to say, I am a Muslim. This is my religion. I might not be perfect. I'm not perfect. But I'm doing the best that I can. And I'm not going to let other people push me away. Because I'm in this for Allah and I'm not in this for Joe and Jack and Jill or whoever. Right? Don't let that be an obstacle for you. Find people doing the same type of thing you're doing, and you're going to find the best friends you've ever had. You're going to find people that are trying to make the same changes as you, trying to learn, trying to give back to the community, trying to be a better person. Allah is going to bring you together. Why? Because if you're all trying to do it, it's inevitable. The same way, if you're trying to do something bad, you're going to find a whole bunch of bad people trying to do the same thing with you. And I'll give you a real-life practical example of a project that we do here in Chicago called the Neighborly Deeds Initiative. Some of the brothers and sisters had something so beautiful in their hearts that they saw people on the streets cold, shivering, hungry, and they said, we have to do something about this. So they started coming together. They're like, we're going to make meals. We're going to go out every week. We're going to feed them. And mashallah, they had those hearts. I did not. I said, no, it's a lot of work. I don't think I'm not built like that. And subhanAllah, we are more than 6 years into this. Every single week, doesn't matter what the weather is, doesn't matter if it's snow, rain, cold, 100 degrees. If I don't go, I feel like my Islam is not complete. Because I see brothers and sisters coming from all walks of life with this void that we have, with this thing that we have in ourselves. We don't even know it's missing. But once you come out and you do something good for somebody else, and you know it's for Allah, it's not for the, so here's a couple dollars. Nah, it's you doing this, and people are genuinely, you could see the smiles on their face, you could see the warmth, you could see the gratitude that people give to you. You'd be like, I didn't even know I was this kind of person. And subhanAllah, that's how community builds. And then when you have a community, this is like another layer to it. Not only do you own it, now you're part of something, you're part of a family. And a lot of people toss that kind of, oh, it's a family. No, it's for real. It's for real. And subhanAllah, we had a sister take shahada. We're like, oh, we got you. When anything happens, your car breaks down, we're gonna take care of you. Like subhanAllah, like within 15 minutes, her car broke down. So like Allah was like, what you gonna do, right? Like you talking about it or you gonna do it? Alhamdulillah. Our community came through and we helped the sister cut the car woman. But I mean, that's what I want everybody in this room to walk away with, is that you have to own your Islam. You can never for one moment doubt, am I really a Muslim? Because that's like, once you get that whisper in your mind, everything else, you know, it could go the other way. So surround yourself with good friends. Surround yourself, even if you don't know them. You see something good going on, just wedge your way into it. Become a part of it, be a part of something. Because eventually, your character will start to absorb some of that stuff. So make sure that we always turn back to the hadith of intentions, right? That's why all of the major books of hadith, they all start with the book of the hadith of intentions. We always want to make sure, I'm doing this for Allah. Because the minute we start doing it for others, then those other things creep in. And I could go for days on this subject, because this is the work we do, this is our community, this is everything. But Chris is getting to go. So we have plenty of time for questions. We're here, as we said, we're doing neighborly deeds tonight. If anybody wants to come check it out, subhanAllah. Bismillah.
Jazakumullah khairan to both of you. We still do have time, actually. I just wanted to give us some time to do a Q&A, because I know that we have a lot of folks here that might be the first time that they've ever heard about Ojalá. And we have the great blessing of having two panelists that co-founded Ojalá, as well as everyone heard, have been doing dawah for many years. And so they both have their own experience and their own wisdom to be able to provide that to some of us. So if anybody has any questions, please go ahead and raise your hand. And you can just ask. And it could be about what they spoke about, or it could also be generally about Ojalá, or a question totally unrelated to what they said, as long as it's within the realm of asking them about Islam or their experience. Like, please, nobody be shy. Raise your hand.
Those interested in Islam?
Yeah, if you're interested in Islam and you have a question more generally, that works too. We will let you guys come to them one-on-one and ask if it's a more personal question, but any general question will always be beneficial to the group. So we have a question over here. Go ahead.
I actually have a question for Sister Alma, just in case, sharing.
Sure.
I heard you say that both your parents are Muslim.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
What do you think inspired them? Because I think, a lot of times I see people when they say, like, oh, how many people, like, I just went to talk and the question was asked on the panel, like, how many people have been inspired with Islam? And I'm thinking to myself, zero. And that they talk about imposter syndrome. And then I think about my own parents. And it's been a journey, right? Like, they were very hostile in the beginning. Now they've calmed down, but it's just the thing that they don't talk about. So I'm just,
Interesting. Sure.
So the question generally, for those that might have not heard it all, was asking Alma about the experience of her parents accepting Islam and how that journey kind of went on and what she has found to be helpful in introducing them to Islam and getting them from just accepting it to also, or just accepting her being a Muslim to then accepting Islam themselves.
Okay, so when it comes to my parents and what they found attractive to Islam, I think everybody's gonna have their own journey, right? We're all gonna have our own journey. One of the things that I find with the Latino, especially the Mexican culture, is that they connect Catholicism with the culture. So it's not really that they have to believe what they're practicing, but it's just so ingrained. So they feel like to let it go is to give up some of their Latino-ness. So being on this topic of like imposter syndrome, that is definitely something that I feel like they were afraid of having, especially my dad. Because he would always say, I'm Mexican, right? I'm Mexican, I don't have to change, I'm Mexican, I believe it, I'm like this, and I'm like that, and I'm Mexican. And I had to really explain to him, like, it doesn't take away from being Mexican, I'm still Mexican too. But I think for us, who have this religion, we have to understand, one, that Allah has chosen every single person that has embraced this faith. Whether you were born into it, whether it was something that you came to later in life, Allah chose you to take this on. And with that, there's a lot of responsibility. Because whether we realize it or not, people are looking to us as the example of what Islam is and what it means. They may not even engage in the conversation, they may not talk to you. They may just be looking at you, you know? So I think for your family, be the best version that you can be of, you know, presenting Islam to them when you're around them. And this is just being you, and they love you at the end of the day. I understand that it's hard for a lot of parents to see their children make such a big and drastic change, but they love you, so they're absorbing information. Sometimes you don't even know it, and it's already ingrained, you know, in them, right? They already have it inside of them, and right now they're seeing you, and you're kind of like cleaning it out, and they're starting to discover that maybe they are a little bit curious about Islam. Maybe what you're doing or what you're saying does make sense, and they might be in a place where they cannot tell you that yet, but they're going through their own journey, and a lot of dua.
I need to add to that. So, Subhanallah, I know you, sister. I know you very well. Alhamdulillah. And wallahi, you inspire me. So, like, just because our friends, like, I have had nobody in 30 years embrace Islam in my family. So there are different experiences here. The work that we do, the efforts that we do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to reward that. The people around us, maybe we're giving dawah to this person, that person eventually will give dawah to another, that person eventually gives dawah to somebody from our family. Because sometimes we don't have that type of relationship with our people, and they're just not going to listen to us no matter what, because we're the black sheep of the family, whatever. You keep doing the good that you're doing, and wallahi, the rewards are going to pour down. Because you inspire us. Then we're here doing this talk, then we're giving, all this is coming back to you, inshallah. Right? And we should all think of it like that, because not everybody is going to have a family that, mashallah, 3-4 generations in 20 years, all of a sudden the whole family is Muslim. They're big scholars. There is the Prophet ﷺ with miracles, with the Quran, with revelation, and his own uncle would not accept Islam. There's Ibrahim alayhi salam with the same, with the miracles. All of the prophets in the Quran, this is something for all of us converts. We have to repeatedly turn back to the book of Allah and know if the Anbiya were receiving revelation from Allah, their families were the most difficult ones on them. Turn to the Quran and get that comfort from that. And know that that's your company. That's the people who you're in with, inshallah. So don't ever feel like what I'm doing, I'm not. Because it's, as much as we love, and I've never seen anything like this last 5-6 years of Ojalá Foundation, entire families, generations, 3-4 generations of people become Muslim. Like, it keeps me going with this work, but there's a good 70-80% of us that never happens. So
It's our loss.
just keep doing what you're doing, and when the intention is for Allah, that's when the reward's going to be, inshallah.
Sure.
Do we have another question? Or we'll go with the sister in the back, in the blue hijab. Or black hijab, sorry. Alaykum salam.
And this is actually, I wanted to text this anonymously, but maybe my picture can help someone else. My difficulty is with my salah. Like, I go with the intention, and it's so sincere, but before I know it, my mind has wandered, I'm thinking of something else, so I can't remember, like, 2 rakahs or 3. And then I finish, and I just feel like, okay, it's done. But I feel like I did not connect. Honestly, I feel like I get more from my du'as. Like I personally feel like I do have a contact. I'm personally recruiting a lot and made a dua. But in my salah, I cannot settle down enough to just really focus. And to the point, honestly, sometimes I just think of stopping. I'm like, what am I doing this for other than just to obey? Because I'm not really connecting like I want to, and like I think Allah wants for me. And this is like years, not like a month, like trying, praying about it, asking how to help me to get better. And I'm like, how, that's where I feel the imposter.
I know a lot of people connect with that. What do you want to do?
It's a really good question to answer.
I'll put something in on it. So, subhanAllah, sister. One thing first and foremost, the bigger the struggle, the more the reward. Right?
MashaAllah.
We are not all wired the same. We do not all have the same level of focus. We would not have different dua and different sayings of the Prophet ﷺ for how to stay focused in salah if this was not a human issue, right? So you don't feel like I'd be shocked if somebody in here says, I'm 100% focused every time I pray. Nah. We're all struggling, sister. We're all struggling with different aspects of this deen, trying to make salah, trying to focus on, especially if you don't understand the words at first, like if you don't know what you're saying, then it's even more difficult. But when you've been there for a little bit, you start knowing a little more, it becomes better. One of the ways to help, go to the masjid and let the imam be the one worried about how many times you have to do it. Get with people, and that's going to save you some of the work right there. But also there are du'as, like that you can say if you feel like you're completely like, man, I'm thinking about next week. There's du'as for that, and I can share them with you after. But also like, this is very, very normal. And some of the companions, when they first came into Islam, they just saw the whole community becoming Muslim. I mean, if we're gonna fight, I may as well be one of this. Like I'm trying to get, if they're getting loot, I want some loot. Let's all, like, there were companions that didn't have the highest level of iman. It came with the work, it came with the struggle. So how did I just keep making the effort? And like, we have that saying, fake it till you make it, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So like, just keep trying, keep knocking, keep trying to get to that level that you're closer to Allah, that you're focused on Allah. If you have in your dua, you feel that connection, then there's a lot of hope for you. The fact that you're even worried about this, that's iman right there.
Yeah, mashallah.
That's a beautiful thing, because there's people that don't even care.
Yeah.
They're just bowing, stand up, just that, get to the next thing. You care, you're concerned, you want to be connected to Allah. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing, sister. So,
Working
I know people envious of you.
Any other questions? I know the brother up here had one.
Yeah, one of the brothers asked me if we have to change our names.
Okay. That one of the brothers asked if you're supposed to change your name after you become Muslim.
No.
This is Christopher,
Yeah.
Alma, Christopher, and Karen.
I'll actually mention this. So the short answer in general is no, unless there's a specific reason that it is not allowed. If your name is indicative of you worshiping anything other than Allah or a god from some other religion, then you would need to change it.
Yeah.
But in general, it wouldn't be. And it's also great da'wah to consider not changing your name. And I'll say that because way back when, in 2017, 2018, when I was learning about Islam, I would introduce myself to people. I would say Assalamu alaykum. They would say wa alaykum salam. I'd say, hi, I'm Chris. And they'd look at me, you know, Chris? And then I'd be like, yeah. And they'd go, you Muslim? I'm like, no, but I'm learning. And then they would always tell me, oh, what are you going to change your name to? And I started thinking, right? I started thinking, like, I don't know, maybe Abu, maybe I don't know. But I had this journey myself of thinking, like, should I change my name? And if I do, what should I change it to? And I didn't know how I would ever tell my parents that, because my parents were the ones that gave me that name. My mother that birthed me named me Christopher. And so actually in 2018, a few months after I became Muslim, I was looking at the panelist workshops. This is all full circle, don't worry. I'm not just yapping. Like, I'm looking at the schedule of all the panels that are happening in Mass That's my first time at this convention. And I see a name on there, and it says Christopher AK Pavlicek, who's actually right there. So I was like, there's this guy named Christopher, and his name is Abdul Karim. Let me go and meet him, right? And I can ask him. And so in short, I approached him, and we actually had that connection of thinking like, no, like there's no reason that we have to change our names. There's nothing haram about it. And if anything, it's a great dawah opportunity, like I said, because every time we introduce each other or introduce ourselves to someone else, we get to tell them about how we converted, and also we get to tell them about how Muslims come from all countries, all languages, all nations, and all ethnicities. If you do have a name that you for some reason think is haram, consult your local scholar and they will give you that answer, but in general, no. I know some people like to add a name, that's cool, but there is great value in keeping the name that your parents gave you and that your family refers to you as, because again, that's how they've used to identify you for so many years. Any other questions? Going once, going twice? Okay. Jazakumullah khairan.